Hello and welcome to Make the Logo Bigger. My name is Brenton. This podcast is your gateway into the world of advertising production, crafted especially for those who are stepping in new, aiming to become producers, or simply eager to understand the inner workings of advertising and marketing. We're here to share insights and knowledge you've been looking for, with stories, tips, and real conversations from the pros. We're simplifying the process for everyone with a production curiosity. Whether you're just starting out or keen to explore the production side of ads, you've found the right place. Let's jump in. Today's guest is Matt McCaughey, a seasoned and long-established director whose journey into filmmaking began as a teenager, sparked by an ad he saw in the cinema, a serendipitous moment that planted the seed for a career behind the camera. From humble beginnings, sweeping floors and puppeteering on the iconic ABC political satire Rubbery Figures, Matt's path took him from aspiring cinematographer to directing music videos and co-founding Dogboy Films and The Pound. Matt now is renowned for bringing creativity, humour and a pragmatic problem-solving to his commercials, including the much-loved Toyota Legendary Moments campaign, which captured audiences at AFL Grand Finals, but then also became iconic Australian TV moments. In this conversation, Matt shares invaluable lessons for up-and-coming directors, from the importance of having an insatiable drive and hands-on experience to the art of balancing creativity with budget constraints. He talks about why editing is an essential skill for new directors, how working across different aspects of production sharpens storytelling instincts, and the subtle nuances that separate great actors from good ones. Matt McCaughey. Matt McCaughey, I believe it's how it's... McCaughey. Matt, thanks for jumping on, mate. Let's jump straight to it. How did you start directing?
Well, when I was about 15 or 16, and you're kind of at school and you're getting in trouble and all your report cards are saying, he's both distracted and distracting, and, you're going, oh my God, always in trouble. I went to the movies one day and there was an ad before the movies, and there was this really nice, well-shot ad, and there's suddenly sort of comes up towards the end and there's a big kind of hero close-up shot of this guy standing atop a mountain. There's backlit and the sun's coming in, a sunset, and this slightly grizzly guy, and he goes, "G'day, my name's Keith Wagstaff, and I'm the man who shot the man from Snowy River, and I always use Kodak 5425 or whatever it was." And I thought, filmmaking, like, that's not a bad kind of thing to think about. DOP, I like sort of photography, and I like, working with people and kind of get out and about. And that was, I think, the moment that planted the seed. And it was really funny because I'll intersperse it with, he sort of kind of came up in a recurring way, this fellow, and which is kind of really fun. But sort of around about the same time, my uncle Peter Nicholson, maybe like within the sort of a year or two, he was a cartoonist at the Age and was doing a pilot for a political puppet show called, which ended up being called Rubbery Figures, and he was sort of shooting it in the front room of a little terrace house in North Melbourne, and always planning to shoot it there. And so I kind of just went down and started pestering him and saying, "Oh, can I sweep the floors? Can I, what do you want me to do? Can I, I'll do anything." And so I really just sort of pestered him to kind of do whatever I could on the pilot. And then the pilot got up and it became like a little sort of a 3-minute, maybe 5-minute sort of show on Monday nights on ABC as part of the Today Tonight version of 7:30 Report, whatever it was back then. And so I kind of ended up just literally sweeping floors, and then suddenly, they needed an extra puppet in the background. So I'd stick my hand up a puppet's bum and sort of like, waggle around, or, really whatever needed to happen. And through that process, and the DOP then who was shooting is a guy called Lee Tilson, and he really sort of took me under his wing and helped me out and explain what, backlight was, or sidelight, and it was super quick turnaround. Like, it was shot on film on a Thursday and Friday because it had to be politically up to date. So we'd shoot on film on Thursday, Friday. I wouldn't be involved in the post-production at all, but I'd be kind of there on Thursday, Friday, and then it was out sort of cut all weekend and then out on Monday night. And then, so that sort of kept on going, and then it sort of got a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger, and it turned into sort of 2 rooms, and I ended up sort of becoming like the DOP for, alongside Lee and another guy called Gary Richards. There's sort of 3 of us who were shooting it. So I kind of got into it that way. And then I thought I wanted to be a DOP for quite a long time, but as sort of things evolved, and another fellow said, "Oh, do you want to come and quote a film clip with me, do a music video?" And I said, "Oh yeah, that sounds good." And so I started making music videos with another guy called Ant Alekna, and we ended up forming a company called Dogboy Films, and made lots of music videos. And he was also quite interested in photography, and I started to become more and more interested in directing. So we ended up doing just everything from making the lasagna for lunch, or going and picking up lights from Shane Jacobson, who I actually worked with Clayton, his brother, at Rubbery Figures. And I kept on saying to Shane that he was working at Premier Lighting or something, and I say, "Oh mate, I know a guy that looks just like you." And he goes, "Clayton Jacobson, do you know him?" He goes, "No, never heard of him." And so he kind of kept me like, "Are you sure?" Like every time I go back, get more lights, and he goes, "No, I never heard of him. Sounds like a bit of a wanker anyway." And and then when finally, a year before Kenny comes out and Shane becomes a bit famous, it's like, "Oh, you idiot!" Like, of course you're brothers. But yeah, so I sort of had Dogboy Films for quite a long time. That was probably about, I don't know, music videos 5 or 6 years. Actually, we started calling ourselves Diablo Films because we thought Diablo sounds pretty good. And you'd ring up and say, "Oh, can I make a booking for Diablo Films?" And they go, "For what? Diablo?" So we had to change the name. But so yeah, did that for quite a while, 5 or 6 years, and then did a couple of Fred Skepsi's company, Filmhouse. They sort of approached At and I and said, "Do you want to come and join us?" And we did a couple of jobs with them, but I didn't really click. And then, not from lack of work, it was we did a couple of jobs, but just, I don't know, it seemed very cold. And at a similar time, Joe and Ken Connor. I met a guy called Joe Connor who was just forming a thing called Renegade Films, who now do Rock Quiz and things like that. But they were really wanting to make a whole lot of ads at that point of time, and just starting. It was really sort of a lot of energy going on, and it was really they sort of introduced me to sort of the world of advertising, and that was great. We had so much energy, so much fun, great, warehouse sort of, or not sort of warehouse offices above Chapel Street. And actually, this is another bit where, so Joe, after about it, we'd been working there for about a year, and we just were fully co-directing, still doing the same way. We, shoot everything, we'd edit everything, we'd direct everything together. And then Joe said, "Oh, how do you boys feel about, getting a DOP to come and shoot something?" It's like, "Yeah, no worries," because it was all on film then. So I was like, always so much pressure. Oh my God, I hope I expose it right. Because I didn't have any formal training really, other than working up through Rubbery Figures. And they said, "Oh, do you want, is this guy I think it'd be really work for you on this job?" And we go, "Oh, cool, like that, no worries." And he said, "Oh, his name's Keith Wagstaff." And I just didn't think of it. And I didn't meet him. We didn't meet him. And then we got to the shoot, and then up rocks this guy. It's like, "Fuck, oh, that's fucking Keith Wagstaff. That's the man who shot the man from fucking Snowy River. I can't believe I'm, suddenly working with him." And then I going like, "Oh, this is just unbelievable." And then that was great. That was a really good moment. And then a couple of years later, this is after Renegade, we'd left Renegade, and I can talk about that if you want, but end up shooting an ad for Australia Fresh, an orange juice company. And they wanted to look a little bit like the man from Snowy River, and the style a bit like that. Of course, I've got to use Keith to shoot it. And he did an amazing job. And there's some funny stories there. But anyway, But I said to Keith, oh, Keith, and he has the part, he looks like some character from The Man from Snowy River as well. So I said to Keith, oh, Keith, can you be an extra on the ad? Have you ever met Keith?
No,
He's
never.
an
No,
absolute,
never met
he's
him.
an absolute classic guy. And he's going, oh, bloody hell, buddy. And, he used to always wear long johns under his clothes anyway. And, he wear dries and bones and shit like that anyway. So it's full like Man from Snowy River. And anyways, he begrudgingly said, yeah, okay, I'll be an extra. So, and the main reason, he looked perfect for the role, but also if I could get him to be an extra, that means that when I could, because I was, could go and operate the camera, that means then I could be the man who shot the man who shot the man from Snowy River. Yeah, we're at Renegade, and then we're working with a producer called Fiona McGregor there quite a lot, and she's a great producer, and I don't know, we just sort of Renegade were going well, and they had a few directors, but Ant and Fee and I kind of felt it was just time to sort of grow and expand a bit within our own sort of. So we went out and formed our own production company called The Pound, sort of a little bit referential to Dogboy. So Ant and I still directed as a team called Dogboy, and had it Renegade. It wasn't Dogboy Films anymore; it's Dogboy. So a little bit of reference, and also the fact that production houses and production companies with, they've got a motley crew of directors and sort of seem to kind of like, the Pound seemed to fit. Unfortunately, found out about a month later there was a cafe about 2 blocks away called The Pound as well, which is a bit of a silly name for us in the end, but never mind. So that was good. We shot sort of, I think that went for quite a while. That probably went through to about, that's probably like 15 years or something like that. We had that going. That was pretty good. And then Fee kind of decided to leave after about 10. Nat Taylor came in as EP, executive producer, for about 5 years. And then I'm trying to work out how long ago. It was probably about 5 years ago I decided to pull the pin on that. I think it just run its course as a production company. I decided to just go out and be a freelance director, which was great. It was sort of like, I know, because I'd always worked with, it was just sort of this new lease on life. It was just sort of this new, but it was almost like a career change. But I kind of knew what to do, even though I was in a new career. It was sort of like a funny little balance. So that was great to do that, and that's sort of what I'm doing now, where I work for, I work for one producer in particular quite a bit, but also I can work direct to agencies or for direct to clients. Not very often direct to clients, because it's usually either direct to agencies or production companies will call me and say, "Hey Matt, you interested in quoting this job with us?"
There are a lot of directors out there who aren't working. I could name a few who haven't come along in the era that we're into now. Is it because you're always looking to find ways to make the money work no matter what that's given you the longevity?
Yeah, I think it feels that the longevity, I think staying energetic around the work, and always, I love directing as much now as I ever have in my whole life. And I feel as I'm in control of it as much as I ever have been in my whole life. And I love it. It's just a lot of fun. Bloody hell, here I am in New Zealand mountains. I'm going to do a stunt tomorrow. That's fun. That's so much fun. I think a kind of an optimistic, positive approach. I've been working quite a bit with Nat Taylor lately as well, and she's got a very sort of positive approach to production, and I think that's been great as well, and keeps me sort of positive. And I love sort of the problem solving. There's always a lot of problem solving in making a TV commercial. Nobody ever comes up to you and says to me, well, nobody's ever come to me in my life and said, look, I've got so much money, I don't know what to do with it. Just go and make an ad. It just doesn't happen. It's, it, it's always like, oh, we've got this much. Do you reckon you can do it for that? It's like, oh yeah, I reckon we can do it for that, So then you got to really just work out how, you're going to spend your money and how you're going to make it absolutely fantastic for what they've got. I mean, yeah. So when you sent through some questions, one of the questions was, have you ever sort of knocked back a job? But in the same time, where you're constantly sort of trying to work out, how you do it. Sometimes you see it get a script, and in terms of like whether I don't ever really knock back a job unless I've knocked back cigarette jobs, but that's a whole different thing. I have done quite a few gambling jobs over the years, so I'm not completely, holier than thou, that's for sure. Quite the opposite, possibly. But anyway, yeah, in response to that question about have I ever knocked back a job, there have been occasions where I've really felt strongly that we need to do it in a particular way, or I really didn't think they had the money for what they were trying to achieve. Like I had a script one time that people were dancing all the way down Collins Street with a big parade going with them, and I think they had like 20,
this is in Melbourne.
In Melbourne, and they had like 20 grand. It's like, we could possibly have there's ways in which we could do things. We could have people dancing down the footpath, but I can't close down all of Collins Street for no money, and I can't put people at risk. I can't put people dancing amongst real cars as they drive along because they might get hit. And you don't want to put, people do get hurt in this industry from filming, and you have to make sure that they're going to be safe to begin with. So you can't kind of put other people in a dangerous situation. But sometimes, I'll really feel like you really need to, the job should be done in a particular way. And I understand that the budget we may be a little bit over budget in the way that we're approaching it, but sometimes I just have to say, look, that's the way I think it's the best job possible to do, and and sometimes I'll lose jobs because of that. But generally speaking, you try to make it work. You try to make it fit within the budget, and problem solve as much as you can.
Give me an idea. Does any job come to mind that was a great script, but you didn't have the money, but you found a clever way or a nice way of being able to execute it?
Every job. I mean, look, the job I'm on at the moment, I think, there's 3 production companies quoting it, which there often is. We had to build 2 very big props, or 2 big props had to be built for it. And I can't probably say what it is quite yet because I don't know when this is coming out. But they're 2 very big props. But we worked out that actually we could hire one of these very big props, or hire it and still have it in an incredible spot. So suddenly we saved, $30,000-$40,000, which is, in a $250,000 job or something, whatever it is. I don't know what it is exactly, but that's a big saving. That means that you can shoot for, perhaps you can probably travel to go and shoot it somewhere else, or you can, if you need the location to look a little bit more, spectacular. So there's always ways like that you kind of have to think through how you do it, and you still want to have like when you do your treatment, often the way you approach it and will come, so the creativity of how you want to direct the spot and how you want to approach directing the commercial will often go hand in hand with how you'd want to do it technically. Because you can't, I remember you can't just sort of like repeat to the agency what they've written. They want the director to bring something fresh to it. They don't want it to be rewritten, because by the time it gets to you know that there's been kind of like 17 rounds of backwards and forwards, and to sort of, you're not going in to rewrite the script. You have to give the agency and the client, the respect and the credit that they've kind of tried to craft this for quite a period of time. So you're not trying to go in there and rewrite the whole campaign or the individual commercial, but you do want to bring something fresh to it, a fresh set of eyes, just like an ECD will bring. Once I've been editing something and thinking about it for like 2 or 3 months, and an ECD comes in fresh 3 months later, having only had a little bits and pieces to do with it, they go, why is he holding that orange thing? Shouldn't he be holding a blue thing? You go, oh yeah, he should be holding a blue thing, or whatever it might be. So it's great to have that fresh set of eyes. And I think agencies and clients are sort of looking to directors to bring something fresh to it. So you kind of, I think whenever you're writing a treatment, you kind of have to have some kind of hook that kind of gives it a kind of a twist in a way, or makes it that little bit better, or enhances it, or gives it a greater sense of life. Or and quite often it's that creativity, that creative hook can be the way in which you technically can do it. So, for instance, maybe instead of trying to do something where it's all, if you don't really have the money to spend a lot of money on lighting, and that you might go, okay, well, let's shoot it in a slightly different way where it's more realistic, and we shoot in, say, a slightly faux documentary style, and suddenly we bring a whole lot of life to it from that, and then that becomes the hook in a sense that makes people go, oh, I never really thought of it in a slightly documentary style, but that's quite good. It's the same story, it's the same script, but it's really sort of ultra realistic. Or it might be just something, so the creativity and the technicality and the budget can all sort of work together that way.
Have you got a best one? Is there anything that comes to mind, or anything?
Best ad?
Well, where you've found that hook in an idea that went beyond your expectations.
I remember with the Toyota Legendary Moment, we did a whole campaign, Toyota Legendary Moments thing, which were with Steve Curry and the other guy, Dave Lawson, where we recreated a famous moment from an AFL or cricketers or rugby league player's career.
And just a quick one, just to jump in there, Matt, how many of those did you actually do? Because they are quite well known. Yeah,
I think we ended up doing about 17 or something like that, 16. And each time we did one, this is, Toyota would say, this is definitely the last one we're ever doing. You realise that, don't you? We go, definitely the last one. And they also say, you're definitely not making a minute. It's definitely only 30 seconds, all right? We go, definitely only 30 seconds, I promise. And then, of course, inevitably, we'd show them the minute-long cut. They go, oh, my God, it's really funny, isn't it? And they go, actually, let's launch it on, start the AFL Grand Finals, and we'll launch it on the MCG big screen. We go, yeah, cool. So, and that happened maybe, I don't know, at least half a dozen times, which is a really cool spot to be watching the launch of your commercial, is on the big screen of the MCG with the, your younger cousins going, oh, my God, you made that. That was really fun. I actually remember being in a pub for one. They'd already got to, I think it was early days of pub, 3 or 4, and I was at the first final, and the ads came on at halftime of the footy. And usually, halftime at a pub at the footy, everybody kind of, goes, rah, 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 and off they go and get some rounds of beers. And everyone went, shh, and the whole pub went quiet so they could watch the ad. So that was really good. So it was really funny little moment. And then my mate turned to me and said, Matt, you got something going here. You got something going. And I was like, yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, it was good. But no, in that campaign, I remember thinking that we kind of decided to, in terms of hooks and what works and what doesn't, we really decided in that campaign that we wanted to keep it pretty, we didn't want to seem too staged. So again, technical and creativity comes together. So in order to we wanted to feel like the two boys were sort of almost directing the ad, and not directing, but sort of taking the players through what they were doing. So we shot it on very long lenses so we could stay away from the main action a little bit and really sort of just be quite observational in how we kind of did it. So it kind of didn't shoot in the way you traditionally would shoot an ad. It was kind of pretty rambunctious in the way we were sort of shooting it. And I remember, it seemed like it was going to be funny when we were shooting it, but you never really know until you're going to get into the edit suite. And I remember there was a look that Wayne Harms gave the two boys when we were watching it in the edit suite. And it was sort of like, it was drop dead funny. And I just started pissing myself laughing. And I couldn't, and I don't know if it was from relief that it's like, oh my God, thank God it worked. This theory about, shooting it this way, because, it's not traditional comedy the way you traditionally would shoot comedy. And the relief of kind of, and also I think that because I also did cinema studies at uni, and I sort of, studied John Cassavetes, who was a director who did a lot of stuff where it was quite off the cuff and felt quite real. And I had him a bit in the back of my mind as well about how this might work in doing comedy. So it's kind of the theory and the practice are all sort of coming together. But then, so James Hurd and Wayne Harms are the first two, and they just, because they'd done some, TV and media before, but it was always probably in TV studios, and they just thought, what the hell have we got ourselves into? This is just, and Steve wasn't as famous then either. And they were just going like, do you guys even know what you're doing, sort of stuff? In fact, Wayne Harms, the first assistant director, his role is to walk around and basically keep the crew moving. So he's always geeing them up, saying, how long is it before you're ready? How long is it? And I remember we were getting about halfway through the afternoon, and Wayne Harms said to me quietly, he said, that guy's really bloody annoying, isn't he? I go, sort of his job. He goes, yeah, can't we just go and put him down? And I go, no, it's all right. It's fine. So that was good. But then there's so the first two guys, they just thought we were bloody, just mad lunatics, and then who had no idea. But then as the ads sort of got a bit of notoriety, the footy players were sort of, like waiting for what the stunt was going to be. And so we had to sort of hide stunts and hide things like from them or have a red herring so that they thought that was what it was going to be, and then they turn and go, it was something else, so we could get natural reactions from them rather than it seeming to them trying to play out. So we had to always, because even though they were a bit rambunctious, there was still a fairly core script, that was scenes that we're going to try and do, but we didn't want to show the scenes to the footy player. So we were always fighting against the agents saying, no, you can't show them that script, or we'd have to write a completely fake, phony script and then send that's the script. And then they go, oh, yeah, that seems okay. And then, so, they usually work. Occasionally they fell a bit flat, some of them, but, 9 times out of 10, they were pretty funny. Yeah, it was good.
What's the difference working between real people and, it's pretty self-explanatory, but you get actors who you can direct and real. How much harder do you have to work when you've got somebody who's not a natural actor to try and get the performance that you want?
Well, I'll answer this in a slightly different way. Like when you've won the job and you're working on a script with dialogue, and I still sends shivers up my back when this happens, is that when you suddenly get into a casting session, you've chosen, say, to look at half a dozen people for perhaps the lead role, or that you're actually going to sit in there with. When you sit in there and you suddenly hear these words being spoken by an actor, like a good actor, you go, oh my God. And you just get spine tingling. You go, I've spent all this time talking about it for the last month and a half. And I suddenly hear and see somebody doing something who's bringing a whole new thing to it. Something that, whether it be funny or whether it be sad or whether it be, whatever it might be, it just brings a new, I love working with actors in that way. They just bring something. There you go. It takes your breath away. They really do, and they can really enhance the what you're doing, and that's why you try to work with actors when you can. But real people have other qualities. They don't necessarily, you don't want to rely on a real person doing a great, fantastic, long dialogue piece. They might, if they're telling a story about themselves or a story that's personal. Real people, I work with real people. I'm doing a whole campaign now with real people, but not one individual person has to take the whole load of the whole ad, in a sense. And sometimes you find somebody really special, though. You find somebody that's just has got something so nuanced to themselves that it would be almost impossible to recreate that from an actor or so. But I mean, I'm sure that from the 8 people, I'm working with 8 street people next week, and I'm sure some of them will be better than worse, and I'm sure none of them will be able to give me the exact same performance, probably 2 or 3 times in a row. I mean, another thing with footy players, I've worked with, over the years, I've worked with quite a few sports stars, and some sports stars are unbelievable about what they can do, and some sports stars are unbelievable about what they can do as well. Like, I worked with one guy, and he's quite a well-known AFL, star, and he had somebody. He was meant to be sweeping up some ground, and somebody else was running in front of him, and basically he had to sweep the ground and just look at this guy's running past. The guy runs past. He still keeps sweeping, head down, doesn't look up. Hey, like, did you see that? Could you not see him running past? Yeah, I saw when he ran past. He said, okay, we'll just look up when he runs past. He says, yeah, okay. Next time, still sweeping away, no looking up. It's like, could you not see? It just went on and on and on. It just, for like, he just couldn't. And then another person, Nathan Buckley. I did a spot with Nathan Buckley, and because I'd done quite a few spots with other footy players, I kept generally speaking, the instructions pretty, small and minimal. But with Nathan Buckley, you could say, can you? I ended up giving him the longest, about his action, what he had to do. He had to wait there, wait for the knock, then open the door once, close the door, hear the footsteps go down. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was incredibly long instructions, but it would kind of build up to that point. And he absolutely nailed it. Every single, I don't know if his performance was never overly, nuanced, but he could remember, instructions incredibly well. And it's, so everybody's different within that sort of sports star or street casting. Some people can remember it. Some people are naturally funny. But actors bring something, amazing as well.
Yeah, well, what is that? And a lot of people who don't get to work with actors, they get to see just the final product.
Mm.
But what is it with the best actors that make them the best at what they do? And you've said that they bring stuff, but is it bringing stuff that you wouldn't expect?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, it is often unexpected, and it can have a gravitas that you didn't necessarily expect. It can have a weight or a lightness or a human emotion that resonates. Is because often because what we do is really trying to reach us as people. We're trying to reach that. We're telling stories. We're through a visual medium, and so we're trying to reach people's emotions, whether in whatever way it is. And I think that good actors, can do that in a way where you and we get on screen, and we just got no chance of being able. We can tell a story, or we can produce a movie or whatever, but we, to actually be the person that words come out and makes it seem truthful or humorous, or and the humor can often come from a timing. The truthfulness can just come with an honesty of the way somebody speaks, but then they can do it like 6 times in a row or whatever. It's just I think that's what they bring. They bring sort of a charge of emotion, which is, and they can do it repeatedly.
And that's one aspect of it. But for you, what's the best part when you're making a commercial?
Being on sets, definitely. I mean, I think the moment when you're sort of in a casting suite with the actor and you hear somebody do something and it's just you, the casting director, and the actor, that's a pretty special little moment. That's a bit moment you're like, and the thing is that when you're casting, you might see 4 different people do something incredible, and they'll all be quite different. And you go, oh, right, now that's really stuffed my head about how I think I should shoot this. And I think that's the beautiful thing about filmmaking, is that you have to listen to lots of different voices, and as a director, you try to. I think it's important that you stay open to different voices, not just from actors, but from a DOP, from the producer, and so you're trying to, so from the production designer, you're trying to bring together, bits and pieces that you stay open to these bits and pieces that people are suggesting. And, sometimes they're great, sometimes they're well-intentioned, but maybe not particularly what you're trying to get. But once you sort of bring all these different things together, that's one of the jobs of what a director is to sort of, try to make value judgments on what's the best way to go in lots of different situations. And I think, having that great idea, I think one of the things I love, actually, this podcast is about producers. I think one of my favorite things,
it's about production.
Just production, yeah. But I think one of my favorite things is actually the relationship between the producer and the director. Like many of the producers that I've worked with closely over the last, over my whole career, many of them now are my closest lifelong friends. It's really, our friendships have really endured, and and I just love that kind of the way in which the cut and thrust of that relationship. That's a really good one. I love, the shoot is good. The shoot's like game day. The shoot's sort of where there's a lot of moving bits, obviously, on the shoot. Well, usually there's a lot of moving bits, and you've got to sort of just stay focused and just, remember what you're trying to achieve at all stages. And again, things change on the shoot day. You can't. You have to stay open-minded to the Australia Fresh one. I remember, and this was a bit of I remember reading a story about Peter Weir making Witness, the movie Witness, and that
was that Harrison Ford?
Yeah, with Harrison Ford, and there was some scene where he ran into. There's some. I can't remember the exact story, but I think there's a couple of stories that I'm merging into one here. But there's like a scene where he and the cinematographer was an Australian guy as well, and the cinematographer was at lunch, and Peter Weir was at lunch, and he walked into this old barn in this Amish community, and there's like all these beautiful pinpricks of light, of shaft of light coming through. So, we got to come and shoot the scene here quickly now. And they said, "Yeah, all right, no worries." And then they spent the whole rest of the afternoon blacking out the whole barn, and then putting the pinpricks of light back in. And the cinematographer and Peter Weir was just going like, "Oh yeah, okay, that's Hollywood filmmaking for you." Instead of just picking the camera up and quickly shooting it. But I think there was a scene with also from, anyway, on this Australia Fresh one, I think I somehow copied this story, but there was a scene where suddenly there's all these fields just blowing with crops and it was just such a beautiful thing. And I remembered a scene in Witness like it, and that we just have to ride the horse through that field now. So even though it wasn't, it was an incredibly, jam-packed day of, shooting, and there was like a Hollywood B star, from that was there, who was loopy as all get out, and everyone was stressed about the time. It's like, no, we have to get that shot over there. And so sometimes you have to sort of just stay open to the moment and stay open to what's happening on the shoot day that's actually really looking good and working well.
Well, your inspiration, you said you saw something from Witness. When you are reading a script, where do you get your inspiration from? Does it come to you visually when you see something?
I really find the brief from the agency really important. I think that the way in which, you can talk to the creatives about, because they've been thinking about this idea for quite a lot longer than you have. I may have had the script the day before and go, that's an interesting script, that could be fun. I try not to set. You might have a few. You'll have a few initial ideas. I think the first couple of reads of the scripts are really important to kind of go with what your gut feel is. What could be funny? Whether it's it'd be better if there's less words or more action or whatever. Just a few little simple things. But again, stay open to how the creators who have written it and crafted it for because there's obviously a lot of craft in kind of writing a script. They've been probably with it for a few months now. So it's been in their heads for quite a long time. So I think I always take that as to really want to listen carefully to what they have to say, where they feel the beats are. If they've been thinking about a film or a style or something up till now about how they see their campaign, because then you can, once you've kind of can kind of hear where they're coming from, then I feel you can start to sort of, and ideas, they blossom. They don't blossom out of nothing. They don't blossom out of zero. I feel like ideas and creativity comes from, or does for me anyway, from talking to people and thinking about it, reacting, and it's that action and reaction of conversation that is where a lot of inspiration comes from, and where a lot of creativity comes from. It's not just sort of plucked out, oh yeah, this is a brilliant idea. A specific, and then once you sort of had that dialogue between each other, then I think, things start to come and go, actually, maybe we do need to jump off a big tower. Big tower actually break their back. So we can't, be jumping off a tower that's going to break people's backs. So if we can't jump off a great big tower, how are we going to make it fun jumping off a small tower? Something, there's things that can kind of also come from technical things as well.
Is there a correlation between the relationship that you have with the creative team and the success of a commercial?
It certainly doesn't hurt. When I started directing, it was all about turning black and white words into a motion picture, in a sense, and doing that in the best possible way. I feel now, I don't know if it's because the industry's changed a bit. I don't think it really, or because I've been doing it for quite a bit longer, but I feel that part of my job is, yes, turning black and white words into motion picture, definitely, in conjunction with the producer and all the various people that are involved. But I think it's also trying to, as an experienced director, sort of helping everybody to try to be on the same page so that we're sort of all kind of rowing the boat in the same direction at the same time. So we all understand what we're aiming for. Say we wanted to do it in the style of a Bruce Lee movie, I don't know, whatever it might be, that I make sure that the client and the creatives and the executive creative director, and that they all kind of, we're all working in this same way, that we love, it's actually this Bruce Lee movie as opposed to this Bruce Lee movie because he's been making, or something along that, or maybe Jackie Chan would be a better example, because this Jackie Chan movie, which was made in 1979, we don't want that one. We want the one that's made in 1992, or that's so that I sort of feel like trying to get everybody working together on for the same vision is a really good part of my job now as well.
Well, what makes a great script then?
I think with advertising, I think obviously that question is very different from a feature film to advertising, to an ad that goes, even if it's 60 seconds. I think there's some things can be the same. It's good if it relates to us as humankind, as people. I think obviously that's important. But at a really basic level, I kind of find with advertising, a great script is often the simplest ones, where there's a really strong, simple idea and you don't try to over-execute it. You need to get everything kind of right with the script, and you need to get all the, the way you shoot it, the way you direct it, the music you put to it. It's important to get all those things right, but if the idea is simple, and then you can't, I like sort of those simple sort of ideas, I think. But then some of my favourite jobs are not particularly simple. So,
what about newcomers? What advice have you got for them? People who are directors.
In the ad game, I feel like don't feel like you have to just be, you know, starting out in the ad game. I feel like you can. I feel like just shoot as much stuff as you can. Shoot and direct as much stuff as you can. I mean, and all directors are going to find a different path, but I think you also take as many little opportunities as you can. You know, you're not going to begin with. You're not going to make. You know, you don't have money in any way, shape, or form. I know that's tough, but you know, go on the dole and just shoot stuff for free. Take any opportunity, because even though people will say it's not what you know, it's who you know. It is. That's the truth to a certain extent, but it's, you know, people by constantly trying to do stuff. There's a little opening happens here. Yeah, I can do that. I'll go and direct that for free, or you know, I get a ticket to the MADC in return for doing that, directing that commercial, or but then because I directed that commercial for free as a 20-year-old, I've suddenly met, you know, 6 creatives who know that I did that, and then suddenly it's like, oh well, I know them because I did some work for them for free, but doesn't matter. I've still met them, so I start to build up your kind of group of contacts, and so I think that it is a bit who you know, but you do that through trying to shoot as much stuff, trying to do as many things as you can. You know, it doesn't always have to be as a director or as a director of photography. It could be as an assistant. It could be from like sweeping the floors. I mean, we've all probably swept floors at some stage of our life to try to get up, you know, to try to work our way into the ranks. Stay keen, stay energized, stay alert, stay positive. Don't be rude, because what's the point of being rude and angry with people? There's no point. Doesn't serve anybody any purpose. You know, one skill I think is really important as a director is to do some editing yourself, because so you know how one shot goes to the next. So that you go, oh, that's why I cut on the action, because I can see that the motion going that way and the edit's smooth, or, you know, like that. It's, you know, I'm cutting against the action, and, you know, whatever it might be, you can. I think editing's a really important thing to do as a young director. So you get I did quite a bit of stop motion photography, or cinematography, you know, when I was younger as well. Like, that's a really good thing to work out how every single individual frame works out to sort of actually make something, to make motion. That was really good. Yeah, they're probably my biggest tips.
Well, Matt, mate, I've taken up too much of your valuable time while you're sitting there in New Zealand, just enjoying the sights, getting ready for a shoot. So I appreciate you taking the time out. I know it's been busy for you, so thank you. And some poignant words. And it's great because we've never had a director on before.
Absolute pleasure, Brenton.
Well, that's it for today on Make the Logo Bigger. Thanks for hanging out with us. We've shared some insights and stories that I hope you found useful. Whether you're just getting started or diving deeper into ad production, there's always more to explore. Keep listening, stay curious, and we'll be back soon with some more from the world of production. Take care until then.